Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Good afternoon, guys. This is Austin Linney here with Construct Your Life. I had to remember what podcast this was, the Construct Your Life podcast. We have Mr. Devin Hubbard in the house. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well. I appreciate you having me on, and it's an honor to be here.
I get it. Don't you have like 15 kids? How many kids you have? Like 15, right? Like.
It better not be 15. I've got 5, but there's days it feels like 15.
I love it, man. So tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what you do, your story, and we'll get started from there.
Yeah. That's a little bit of a loaded question, and I could probably take 45 minutes just answering that question. But Devin Hubbard, full-time agent, but also investor, developer. I love what you're doing with the short-term rentals. So I'd love to be able to, network and connect with you more on that to scale that side of things. And I typically tell people I'm all things real estate. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing, but real estate's always been my main focus. And so I walked away from my W-2 job. I guess I should say, I started in real estate 8 years ago, and then I got into it as an investor, and I started flipping, I started wholesaling, I started collecting rentals, and that opened my eyes to all of the opportunities and all the different ways that you could make money in real estate. There's no there's no one way to do it. And so we kind of scaled and snowballed a little bit, and it just got bigger and better. And 5 years ago, I walked away from my W-2, and I've been doing real estate full-time for the last 5 years. And at that point, it just made sense to get my real estate license. So I've had my real estate license for about 4 years now, and it's actually become a pretty good chunk of my income, but not necessarily my main and only focus. There's way more opportunities, and I enjoy more of the investing side. But the agent side of things helps pay the bills and helps fund some of the other investments and things that we're doing as well. So it's been a good balance.
Some of the best agents that I've met started out as either a builder or they were an investor first. It's a perspective view / like detail oriented little knowledge of the space that allows them to kind of, I don't know, just look at it from a different context. And the clients seem to enjoy somebody that be like, you can do this there, you can change that, or, this is really not a deal. Have you found that to be true? Like as you transitioned into an agent?
Yeah, absolutely. Like even today, like I've got general contractors reaching out to me like, hey, is like, if I were to do this with, a detached garage and a short-term rental above it, like, is this a good idea? What do those numbers look like? Location. Mm-hmm. And so like agents often just kind of handle like the blindfold of like, I just want my commission on my 2 to 3% commission, and, going through the process of buying and selling that way. But when you have an outside view or perspective and experience of investing and cash flow and ROI and cash on cash type stuff, when you can talk that type of lingo and have that type of experience raising capital, hard money, all that type of stuff that most people have no idea what that even means. You can talk cap rate. What's a cap rate? So it's just you being able to talk that lingo and know the agent side too I just feel like is just a huge advantage for sure.
Yeah. And it's, I make a joke that an agent's career should be like an NFL running back career. It's like 3 or 4 years of like prime time, like head down. Like I have a buddy, like he's about the same age as me. He did something most of his life is different, but he said, look, this 1 year, my first year, I'm going to dedicate all my effort towards this. He knew a lot of people and he worked with the best team in the state, right? He did like 54 deals, right? Like he crushed it.
Yeah.
But he's like, Austin, I can't do that for like 10 years in a row.
Yeah.
And so he's already transitioning to investor. And so, is that kind of your advice to like young agents out there? It's like, hey, you really need to pick up some of these things, because the grind of being an agent, if that's the only way you're making money, is going to get really exhausting after a couple of years of trying to, always get clients and so on and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say some of my best deals have actually come from agents. Like they know there's opportunity and they see potential, but they don't know how to necessarily tackle the deal or how to make the deal work. And so when you can come in and say, hey, like, one of the deals that an agent brought me, hey, this fix and flip, I don't know if it works, but take a look at it. And it's actually, it was an older home that just needed to be gutted. Everything was original from like 1950s, but there's a mother-in-law apartment you could rent out. And then come to find out, we walk the property and it's almost an acre. It's like, dude, you can subdivide this lot, create a flag lot, and you can, there's so much opportunity and potential here. So and then on top of that, the family inherited the house because mom and dad had both passed away. They own it free and clear, and they agreed to do seller financing, interest only payments for 12 months.
Jesus.
So like, it was awesome. And the agent was thrilled just to make his commission on it. And so, it was a win-win-win for everyone. The family got what they were wanting out of it. We were able to tackle the deal, subdivide it, and, flip the property. And then the agent was able to make his commission. And I think it clearly was a good learning experience for him too, because he realized, holy smokes, like I got, a couple $1,000 for my commission, but these guys are going to do way better than that. So it's fun to be able to teach and like help other people do the same thing too. So that's cool.
Well, it's funny. I was just talking to one of my buddies who's a top agent in Austin, and the market there is kind of interesting at the moment. And I said, man, he's like, dude, there's all these deals everywhere and nobody's pulling the trigger. And I'm like, well, you could be one of those deal guys. And he spent his whole life as like a top agent doing 40, 50 million, just kind of focused on that. And I was just explaining to him like, hey, there's opportunity for you to be the buyer and then do a couple things and fix it up and send it. And he was like, wow, like I never thought about that. So it's like, I think it's just about planting the seed that there's an opportunity outside of with helps with books, podcasts, meeting people like you. Wouldn't you agree that that's like kind of the start of like introducing people to stuff like that? And then it opens up. I mean, there's a million options from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's perfect.
When you were, are you still flipping now? Are you still buying rentals, or have you kind of moved on from that side of investing?
So I focused. Sometimes I'll cherry pick the flips I want if it's easy. I'm all about simplicity and easy, and I want to keep it that way. And so most of the time I'm wholesaling. And then, I cherry pick the ones that maybe we can wholesale or flip. And I've sold all of my smaller single family fourplexes, and we're building a 113 unit apartment building here in town, like just 15 minutes away from home. And then I just jumped in on another deal with some partners, and we're doing a value add project down in Albuquerque, New Mexico on a 98 unit complex down there. And so, like kind of getting rid of the smaller things and focusing on the bigger things. I want to get into, hundreds of storage units, hundreds of apartment building or apartment units. And so taking the smaller stuff to scale into bigger things.
So walk me through, because I was trying to explain to him too, and I sent him some YouTube videos because my buddy does it in Arizona and he kills it. Walk me through how you as an agent wholesale a property for any agent that's listening out there, because you're an agent. So, everybody's like, can you do that? I don't know. Like, how do you Like, are you like, I had a great mentor of mine who does like 400 deals a year, said he always approaches every property as if he's the investor first and then works backwards from his options. Is that the same way you look at it?
Yeah. And I guess depending on, maybe not every, if someone's got a brand new home that they're like, hey, I need to list it, I'll do that. I won't even bring it up unless there's some other motivation or some other reasoning behind it. But yeah, I go in oftentimes and just say, here's your options. I'm an agent and I can list it, or just to disclose I'm an agent. And I've had multiple conversations with brokers over the years just to make sure I'm doing things the right way in my state, because it does vary state to state. But yeah, I'll have that conversation and be like, okay, if you want a cash offer where you can just sell your home as is, leave behind anything you don't want to take, and we will just pay cash for it as is. You don't have to fix anything. Like, just, again, we'll bend over backwards to make it as easy and convenient for you to walk away. And you just tell us the number that we need. Like, if we can come to terms on a number, then that's, we'll go to that point. And so, yeah, sometimes we'll double close, which double close means we'll get hard money on it, we'll close on it, and then we'll typically already have another buyer lined up if we need to go that route, just depending on the situation. But there are other times where we're able to assign that contract that we have on a property for a profit and walk away with 10 or 15,000. And sometimes it's even $50,000 or $60,000, depending on what the end buyer has planned with it, because everyone's going to run their numbers differently. One buyer might be like a general contractor that can do all the work themselves, and the numbers they've got way more flexibility there. So again, just depending on who your end buyer is, the deal looks way different on ARV and rehab numbers and things. And so you just kind of blast out a deal and let them kind of choose what numbers make the most sense for them. And so, yeah, that's how we've typically done it.
So why don't more agents do this?
So yeah, it's funny. Most people they just don't know. Like, they think you have to go get pre-qualified with the lender, and they think you've got to have a certain credit or a certain amount of money in the bank or this and that. And the funny thing is, for many years, I've typically been able to do deals with little to none of my own money. Sometimes I've even had like a HELOC where I just leverage my own HELOC if I do have to come out of pocket for down payment or rehab or any holding costs, but it's typically pretty minimal. I've had hard money lenders give me, the deal's good enough that they're like, hey, we'll lend 100% on it. And you don't have to pay us back until you sell it. So, yeah, if you can get people lined up, there's a lot of people with a lot of money, but most people and most people, like the people that are in a different profession outside of real estate, they've got this money sitting in this account and they don't know what else to do with it because the stock market is so up and down, or, crypto so up and down. So they just got this money sitting there, and it's like, hey, if you want to be a passive investor, here's the numbers on this deal, and I'll pay you this amount, or ask them what are they looking for instead of just offering whatever, because sometimes you can negotiate that interest rate or those terms way less than, what even the going market rate is. Like, the first hard money lender I worked with, he gave me 100% of the purchase price with 0 points and 5% for 5 years. Like, I had no.
Where's this guy? Give me his name, social security number. Like, where's he at?
I had no idea how good I had it until he realized,
hey, listen, this is how bad you're gonna know how you didn't get it. I worked private equity, and we lend it to investors for construction, development, so on, right? Flips and all that shit, all over Texas. When COVID happened, we were getting our money from Blackstone, most of our money, right?
Okay.
So we were at like 8, 9, 2, point and a quarter, somewhere around there. The money went from there to 13 and 14% in 4 points. I looked at my boss in the face and I said, I'm not selling that to anybody, and just walked out the door. Like, you had the holy grail of hard money, dude.
Yeah, I bought quite a few, but not enough properties with that type of money.
Well, you know what's interesting? There's some psychology behind that. And this is the thing I had to learn the hard way when I got around guys that had big, billion-dollar funds. You can't, what somebody needs, right, for a deal. We talk about this all the time when we're negotiating a deal. You got to ask the questions, because you're assuming that this person wants 10%, 3 points, 2 points, when he's just like, hey man, I'm really comfortable with just like getting my little 5%, 6%. And my comment to everybody is, not every dollar is created equal. Like, true. That person needs, like, I have a guy who does tons of real estate, tons. And I was like doing some math just because I wanted his business. And I was like, dude, I can give you like 6,000 net cash flow from these 4 luxury units. And he was like, I don't care. And I was like, what? He's like, I don't care. He's like, I have to have loans on these with long-term tenants because I have to be able to refinance my portfolio. And that's when I was like, oh, and he like set me down and explained to me, but that was like a couple of years ago. And that was like, okay, like, you can't just wave a magic wand and expect people to jump when it's cash flow. You have to really understand what their needs are.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, this guy, he was like, literally his reasoning was, I'm running out of banks where I have the FDIC insured amount. So he had,
oh my God,
he's
dude,
like, he had
my mom's going through the same thing right now.
He had
that's too funny. Yeah.
$250,000 in all of these different banks. And then he's like, well, the going CD is like 3 to 4%. So if you can give me 5%, then that's better than what I've already got.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I knew I had hit the home run with it, but unfortunately it didn't last. And yeah, now he's probably charging 2 and 12, I think, like everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. So, I spoke to you, I think right before you're about to break ground, is when we kind of met. Talk us through kind of, what every, I'm sure, real estate investor dreams of doing one day, or if they're not already, thinking about it. Talk us through this development and kind of like how long you've been chasing it, and kind of, how you made it to come to fruition.
Yeah. So this has been quite a process, like most development deals, but I can't emphasize enough the importance of relationships and networking. This deal, so I live in South Ogden, and this deal is in South Ogden. So it's basically in my own backyard. And I was meeting with the city and just said, what opportunities are there? What does the city want to see happen here? And just kind of getting a feel for, again, what do they want? What are they looking for? How can we help them? How can we serve them? And
dude, that's the key question.
Yeah.
My buddy got a 300 unit development the same way. Like, what is the city looking for? Like, do you need taxpayers? Like, that's people don't think about to ask that stuff.
Yeah. And then it's amazing. You ask a few simple questions and it's like the floodgates just open, like, oh, and then you bring up, well, what about this? And like, I literally sat down with the same guy yesterday with my business partner, and I brought up a few other things. Just again, because it's my own backyard, I'm super familiar with all of these little land deals here and there. And it's amazing how you can, just spark one little thing and he'll go off, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Well, there's this, and this. And like, you can, again, just take your notebook and take all these notes. And he's looking to connect us with a huge capital group that owns like 8 acres out here, and they want to redo downtown. And so, again, you go to them, helping them solve a problem or a concern that they have, connect those dots. And yeah, so basically he basically spoon fed us a deal about 2 years ago where a group had owned 1.5 acres of land and had been pre-approved for a hotel. But then actually the university around the corner got approved for the same hotel franchise. So at that point, they're like, what the heck? We can't compete with this university right around the corner with the same franchise. So they decided to bail. So we just followed up with the city and they said, hey, we actually know this guy personally. There's been a change of plans. They're actually looking to sell it. And here's his number. So I reached out to him directly almost immediately. And he said, hey, I'm out of town. Reach out to my agent. And we were able to just basically get this deal under contract before it ever hit the market. And we got it rezoned with the city. And we turned, an acre and a half of raw land that had never been developed ever, which was kind of crazy. And now we broke ground back in February for a 113 unit apartment building right next to a hospital, right next to a university, right next to shopping, all sorts of, solid staple locations.
No, I love it because I've met with you in your town and I've seen you, operate. I think that you're in the community. And I don't mean that like, I'm not saying like you're around, like just sitting on the corner, like shaking hands, but like you're,
Right.
You're in the community, letting people know this is me. This is what I do. I'm available. I'm not looking for a handout, but I'm open to relationships and situations. Right. And I think, when you put yourself in those places, like good things are bound to happen. And I think I have a philosophy that with technology, we've made a lot of things easier, but we've also made a lot of people lazy. And I believe that the hand-to-hand shake or breaking bread, right? Or something like that. Like a lot of the big money guys that we deal with, like they want to have dinner with you. They want to sit with you. They want to be around you. And so, I know that you pride yourself in the same situation. That's how that deal got done. And so for anybody that's listening out there, like, the old, somebody asked me the other day, like, what's something that you do that's old fashioned? And I was like, I like a good handshake and a hug. And like it sounds so ridiculous to say, but it's the truth. Like, there is an art to me being in an RV. Like there is an art for me, like showing up, like, oh, you want to do a meeting? No, I'll just come meet you. Yeah. And they're like, what? You're just going to come here? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to come there. And they're like, oh, damn. And like, it's funny how many like higher level guys are like, Dan, we really appreciate you taking the time and coming to visit us in person.
Yeah, no, it's so true, especially after all the COVID shenanigans where Zoom and text and email and stuff is easy and convenient, but I don't know, I thrive off of the energy that you get meeting someone in person. Just that human connection. This is great, but it would be so much better if we could be sitting at the same table having this conversation.
Dude, I've been playing around. I've been playing around with like, what about a walking podcast? Like you go, you go and like 45 minutes now, there's a lot of noises that could come up and stuff like that. But like, when I see my clients in person, they're like, oh man, this is really nice when we just like walk in person, like no offense to Zoom, but like,
sure.
It's just, I feel like it more gravity and like, if you can do that, right? Like I have a buddy they probably closing like 1,200 deals or something like that. And like, it's been hard deals to get, like nothing's came easy. And like, he's flown 3 times across the country and there's like multiple offers, right? And he's like, now look, I don't recommend this by any stretch of the imagination. He's a young kid, okay? But he skip traced the owner, found out where he lived, and then knocked on his door and handed him the offer and said, I want you to have it in person. And he's got the deal legit. Every time. Oh my
gosh, that is so legit. I love that.
Dude, he tells the story. He told a story in my podcast. It would blow your mind out of the back of your body. Okay, I'll just tell you the story because it's so cool. So it's Thanksgiving Day. They have an extension. They've extended it. They're waiting for this like one more thing to come in. They can't get this money. And they ask for one more extension. Old school, South Texas guy, loaded, owns, a ton of buildings, older guy, 60 years old. My buddy's like 23. So it's Thanksgiving, like the day before Thanksgiving. And the guy's like, no extension. And he's like, no, I'm not dealing with that. So he skips trace some 12 addresses, all in Lubbock, has no idea which one is which, jumps on a plane, flies there, has the Uber go around to all the addresses. And the Uber's like, dude, I think you're stalking this guy. I can't take you around anymore. So he had to go rent a car. He goes around. He finally comes to this house for the 3rd time today, this big house. And he notices that there's 2 bullet holes in the front window. And so finally at 5:00, when he comes the third time, the lady comes to the door and goes, who the hell are you? Stop. We had a drive-by a couple days ago, and I think you're somebody trying to get us. And he's like, what are you talking about? No, like, dude, I'm Adrian, like the guy trying to buy your apartment complex. And she's like, my husband told you that we're not extending the contract. And he goes, no. He's going to have to say it to my face. And she goes back and calls him and he says, all right, fine. Be here tomorrow at 8 a.m. And so he goes, he gets to the hotel room, he stays, he drives there the next day. He's in the house for 7 hours talking to the guy about life, how he grew up, everything. Are you ready for this? Sells him the house, takes the profits and invests back in the deal.
Oh my gosh.
and he sold him another apartment complex since then. Now look, there was a lot of wrongs in that story, but it highlights, not willing to give up.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I love that. That's cool.
So I love telling that story. And there's, I would imagine that you are very dedicated to being, a leader and a shepherd for your family and your kids and everything. So that's like a huge driving force. But like as a parent, that has 5 kids, an investor or an agent, building apartments, like how, and I've asked you this before, and I don't know how you answered before, but like, how do you do it all? Like, how do you still be dad and a husband and still, chase all your dreams and get everything done in one day?
Yeah. I would say first off, my wife has to remind me to turn off the work sometimes, because it can easily control you 24/7. It can. And especially when it's a passion, and especially when you love what you do, and like it can definitely take over. So my wife, first off, my wife helps me tell me when to turn it off, but I've also had to be better at time blocking, telling myself, okay, like walk away from the phone, disconnect for a minute. And I guess just going back to my wife, she's a rock star, because she's usually the one with the 5 kids for the majority of the day. I'm around in the mornings and the evenings, and depending on if I'm working from home, I can kind of be in and out. But my wife, I should probably give most of the praise, if not all the praise, to my wife, because she's amazing. But I think just, again, and having someone that helps you and supports you, because it is a team effort. That's huge too, because not everyone has that same level of support and dedication, because with her and I being on the same page, that's a game changer. If we weren't on the same page, it would make life really hard in a marriage, parenting. And so luckily we have a lot of the same trainings, like mindset, the same goals. Mm-hmm. We're on the same page on so many different things and levels that's just, I think that makes probably the biggest difference. And also just being able to call each other out and tell each other, okay, like enough is enough, or you need to turn it off for the rest of the day, I think too. So
yeah, exactly. First of all, before I finish with the last thing I want to say, if people want to find out about you, they want to follow your journey, how would they do that?
Yeah. So there's so many different platforms for social media, but my go-to is Facebook, Devin Hubbard, and Instagram, Devin_R_Hubbard. Find me on Instagram, and those would probably be the 2 best, easiest ways to catch me. And love to connect, love to help people. And I don't know, my wife tells me I talk too much, but I'm an open book. And so I love to help people. I love to work with people. And I think that's part of the, how the world goes around and how deals get done. And so I always appreciate, when I was first starting off, when people were willing to lend that hand and coach and mentor and help. And so I always want to, keep that in mind when I've got other people, that are wanting to do the same thing, or maybe they're even like 20 steps ahead of me and they're just wanting to do the same thing and get me to their level. I would, we're all at different levels, but it's not a race, but we're all here for each other. And so that's what I love about the journey, is everyone brings different skills and experience to the table.
I love that. So I have a metric, especially in the real estate space, how I judge people. And it's not a lot of people in that group, but you're one of those people. These are people that I would give $150,000 without even looking at the deal, because that's how much I trust their character and who they are as a person. And you're one of those people. And so, I just wanted to tell you that it means a lot to me to know what you stand for, who you are as a person, and, super excited to watch your journey, get inspired by it. And I just wanted to tell you that because, that group is not that big, but I just know, like, you wouldn't get your investors in a deal if you weren't 100% on it. And so that's what excites me about, having somebody in my life like you and adding you to that list.
Sure. No, that's awesome. I appreciate that more than you know. So that's awesome.
You got it. Guys, if you got some value from this episode and you enjoyed it, send it to a friend. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.